So this is a presentation I put together back in 2010 that was really based on a lot of my experiences starting in 2007 when I graduated from college. I found out that there is not just the one monolithic, this is what science is, but actually inside of different scientific disciplines, there are a lot of different viewpoints. There's a lot of different models. And for the most part, you guys have only probably ever heard of one model, which is just called the Standard Model. And so I went on a bit of a world tour and talked to a bunch of other scientists. It was a really great opportunity. And so a lot of what I'm presenting is a conglomeration where I've brought a lot of things together and summarized them. And the group that I'm really looking at today is sort of the biblical literalist. If you just open up the Bible and say, what does the Bible say about history, you get it's the most straightforward interpretation. And I could teach a similar class on a number of other worldviews or models, ways of interpreting it. But I like this one because it doesn't have the same sort of theological gymnastics that you have to do. So we'll just start right here. So basically the way that the Bible describes history, there's basically 5 major events that I would really point to as world-shaping, world-changing events. So we start at the left, and we have creation. And I'll get to talk about that some. And then a really big event that people don't pay a lot of attention to is the flood. And that sort of set up the modern physical world that we're living in today, most of the Old Testament. Then there is Jesus came, and he created a new spiritual reality for us. So we have the new covenant. And so then we're living in this time between Jesus and the apocalypse. And then there's also another event which we're looking forward to in the future called the new earth. So I'll just get started here. So this, as I was kind of going through my own journey, okay. So I want to start off with a little bit of kind of a overview, a little philosophical header on this, and that's the concept of worldviews. Worldviews are a really essential concept, and I think, unfortunately, that most people haven't really been introduced to this idea. It's the idea that everyone has a worldview which they use to make sense of the universe. We all have these, but they're invisible. And so the differences here are caused by different people having different worldviews. They shape the way our logic works. And so if you can think about someone who you thought was a reasonable person overall, but then maybe they have a viewpoint or a belief that you're just like, you're insane. Like, I can't even imagine that. That's a worldview coming into play here. And the bad news about worldviews is that our whole way of thinking is wrapped up in a worldview. What I found really exciting is that our imagination is not. We have this amazing ability called imagination. I don't think any other creature has this. And it allows us to imagine worlds that don't exist. So I have this quote from Albert Einstein here saying, imagination is more important than knowledge. For knowledge is limited to all we now know and understand, that's your worldview, while the imagination embraces the entire world, all there ever will be to know and understand. And so it turns out that far from reason being the only factor in science, that imagination is also really important. So this is an artist's rendering of a quasar. It's an object that exists in the far-flung reaches of the universe, and we just get these little glimpses of what a quasar might be, but we can't see them very well, so we have to use our imagination to kind of go through them. And for Albert Einstein, imagination was essential in coming up with his core things. And what I'd like to point out is that we also use our imagination for things like when we're reading fictional books, we can put ourselves into a different mindset and say, what if the world were like that? What would logically follow from there? So I just want to encourage you to kind of open up your imaginations and think, what if things were different? What if we're in a different world? And I found this really helpful for kind of understanding how other people think. Okay,